Hi everyone, it's Luke from Makerspace Adelaide here. Today I'm going to be recapping our last year with the Thunder Laser Australia Nova 35 laser cutter. Now, while we did receive a discount on purchasing this from Thunder Laser Australia, the expressions and opinions in this video are completely our own. First up, let's talk about the build quality. We've had a few laser cutters from various different brands over the last decade, and build quality for the Nova 35 is on par with the machine at this price point. The Nova 35 starts at 12,900 Australian dollars at the time of this recording, more than half the price of some of our previous laser cutters that we've had. The gantry system that runs the cutting head is built on these pretty chunky aluminium extrusions and roller wheels. It's super rigid, and although we've had a few accidental head strikes in the last year, it hasn't actually affected the laser alignment, which is pretty impressive. The overall quality of the chassis is pretty nice too. It's got pretty good strong welds around the corners and that sort of thing, and pretty good quality paint for the price as well. The gas struts on the lid are quite powerful, if a bit squeaky, meaning there's no risk of the lid falling down when you're working, and that's something that we have experienced before on other machines. The other thing is that the crumb tray is pretty quick and easy to open up for cleaning as well. We've had some pretty trivial issues like the rubber end caps on the handle falling off, and one of the shaft couplings was loose at one point. It was pretty easy to tighten up and pretty easy to fix. With the Australian reps though in Australia, it means that getting support on this machine is super easy. When looking for a laser cutter, the specs that are often talked about are the cutting speed and the overall laser power. But if you're like us, we actually kind of like to know a bit more about things like the engraving quality and the engraving speed of doing images and text. On these two sample pieces, you can see some text that is gradually getting smaller. We found that the text is still pretty legible, even at 1mm high. For image or logo engraving, the resolution is really clear, despite it maxing out at 500 dpi, compared to the 1000 dpi of some of the more expensive machines. So the Nova 35 comes with either an 80 watt or 130 watt CO2 laser. We opted for the 80 watt, and so far haven't had any issues with trying to cut even thick material. Cutting 3 and 6mm MDF and acrylic is an absolute breeze for this machine, even in the 80 watt configuration. The main issue with laser cutting thicker materials is that you'll get distortion in your cutting edge. This is because the laser beam gets wider the deeper you go into a material. It's not as noticeable on thinner materials like 3, 6 and 9mm, but on something like this 14mm acrylic, you can definitely tell. The dual control air assist on this machine is one of our favourite features. Some materials like paper and dual colour materials can have issues with high air pressure, where you can get debris back on the surface or it can physically move the material out of the way. So having the ability to quickly swap to a low pressure option in the software is awesome, especially when we have so many people using this machine in a public makerspace. Through the Lightburn software, we can access all 80 watts of laser power when we do engraving. This means that you can do deep, dark engraving without worrying about power caps like some of the other laser brands. Autofocus has also been one of the creature comforts that we didn't really know that we were missing out on until we got this machine. You can load up your material as long as it passes between these two beams, and autofocus will bring your material straight up to the correct height for laser cutting and engraving. One feature we don't use often, but has come in handy this year, was the pass-through doors. The front and rear panels on this machine can be removed to allow larger material or longer material to enter the machine. The most creative use of this feature is when we tried to laser cut the head of an old guitar. The timber was a bit too thick for the 80 watt laser, but it was enough for the member to go away to the workshop and use a coping saw to finish off the cut. One of the features that we weren't aware of when purchasing, but we are very thankful of when needed, was the fire detector. At one stage we did have a fire in this machine, and although the member using the laser was able to deal with it pretty swiftly, the fire alarm that's built in did go off and alert the volunteers. So the age-old question, is it worth it? We think definitely. The Nova 35 is in the prosumer category, meaning it's got a bigger price tag than the sub $5,000 laser cutters, but it's also considerably cheaper than some of the higher end competitors. It's not as quick as the newer Thunders like the Bolt series, and the engraving quality is only 500, whereas they can sometimes do 1,000. But for what our members do, it fits our uses perfectly. The creature comforts and the safety features we mentioned make this machine feel a bit more premium than you might expect. Thanks for joining me on this 1-year recap of using our Thunder Laser Nova 35. If you'd like to try out the Nova 35, Makerspace Adelaide is open 4 days a week, and we do inductions on this machine every second Saturday. Thank you, bye.